My name is Jessica, I'm 28, and last Monday my life changed forever when I received a call from my grandfather's lawyer telling me I'd inherited everything. His house, his investments, his entire estate worth $3.2 million. I made one decision right there in that sterile law office. I wouldn't back down, not even when my own parents took me to court. If you're watching this from anywhere in the world, drop your location in the comments below and hit subscribe if you want to hear how this all ended. Let me paint you a picture of my life before that phone call. I was working nights at a warehouse in Columbus, Ohio, making $17 an hour moving boxes that were slowly destroying my back. My apartment was a studio above a Vietnamese restaurant, and the smell of pho had permanently embedded itself into everything I owned. My biggest accomplishment that month was finally paying off my credit card debt from when my car's transmission died the previous winter. I ate instant ramen 4 nights a week, not the fancy Korean kind with the separate seasoning packets, but the 29-cent blocks from the corner market. My entertainment budget consisted of a shared Netflix password from my college roommate who'd forgotten to change it, and occasionally splitting a bottle of $5 wine with my neighbor when life felt particularly unbearable. My family tree was more like a family tangle of disappointments, grudges, and barely concealed resentments that exploded every Thanksgiving. My father, Richard Thompson, was a middle manager at a logistics company who'd spent 35 years being passed over for promotions and blamed everyone but himself for his mediocrity. He collected grievances like baseball cards, could tell you every time someone had wronged him since 1985. My mother, Susan Thompson, taught 4th grade at a public school and harbored a bitterness that seemed to grow stronger every year. She was the kind of woman who remembered every birthday you forgot, every call you didn't return, every slight real or imagined, and she'd bring them up at the most inappropriate times. My older sister Madison worked in pharmaceutical sales, married to a guy named Brad, who sold insurance and thought he was God's gift to entrepreneurship because he'd started a failed CrossFit gym. They lived in a McMansion they couldn't afford in Dublin, drove matching white SUVs, and posted constantly on Instagram about their blessed life, while calling me twice a month to borrow money. My younger brother Tyler was 25, still living in our parents' basement, claiming he was developing the next big social media app that would revolutionize human connection. The app changed concepts monthly, but his need for financial support remained constant. Then there was Grandpa Robert James Mitchell, 86 years old when he died. Korean War veteran, retired owner of 4 hardware stores he'd built from absolutely nothing. He lived in the same red brick house in German Village he'd bought in 1968 for $12,000 cash. Drove a 2001 Ford Crown Victoria he maintained religiously, the kind of car cops used to drive, said it made people move out of his way on the highway. Wore the same style of navy work pants and flannel shirts I'd seen him in since I was a little girl. His hands were permanently stained from decades of work, fingers thick as sausages, nails that never quite came clean no matter how hard he scrubbed. But here's what most people didn't know about Grandpa Robert. He'd been quietly investing since 1962, General Electric when it was $9 a share, Microsoft in 1986, Apple when everyone thought they were finished, Amazon when people laughed at the idea of buying books online. He bought and held like he was allergic to selling. Never touched a penny of it. Lived off his hardware store income. Then his Social Security and military pension. The man ate the same lunch every day for 40 years. Bologna sandwich on white bread, an apple, and black coffee in a thermos that had seen better decades. The call came on a Monday at 2:47 p.m. I remember the exact time because I was staring at my alarm clock, debating whether 3 hours of sleep before my shift was worth it, or if I should just stay awake. The voice on the other end was professional, measured, the kind of voice that delivered important news for a living. Miss Thompson? This is James Crawford from Crawford Steinberg & Associates. I'm calling regarding your grandfather Robert Mitchell's estate. Would you be able to come to our office this afternoon? It's rather urgent. I threw on the only clean blouse I had, a navy blue thing from Target, with a small coffee stain near the third button that I hoped no one would notice. My 2009 Honda Civic with the cracked windshield and the passenger door that only opened from the outside made weird noises the entire drive downtown. The law office was on the 23rd floor of a building I'd only ever seen from the outside. The elevator had marble walls. The receptionist offered me sparkling water with lime, served in actual glass. I felt like I was trespassing in a world where I didn't belong. James Crawford was maybe 55, silver at the temples, wearing a suit that probably cost more than I made in 2 months. He had documents spread across a conference table that overlooked the entire city. The view alone probably cost more per month than my rent. He pulled out a leather chair for me that was softer than my bed. "Miss Thompson, I'll be direct. Your grandfather has left you as the sole beneficiary of his entire estate. This includes his residence in German Village, his investment portfolio currently valued at $2.8 million, his savings accounts totaling approximately $400,000, his checking account with $73,000, and various personal effects, including his vehicle and the contents of his home." I stared at him. The words weren't computing. They were English. I understood each one individually, but together they made no sense. My brain kept trying to add a not somewhere in that sentence. There must be a mistake. What about my dad, my mom, my siblings? They're his actual family. He adjusted his gold-rimmed glasses, the kind that scream expensive without trying. "You're his family too, Miss Thompson. Your grandfather was very specific. He updated his will 7 months ago. You are the sole beneficiary. He left letters for other family members, but no monetary inheritance, not even $1. My hands were shaking, not dramatically, just a tremor that made it hard to hold the Mont Blanc pen he handed me. Why me? This doesn't make sense. I'm nobody. I work in a warehouse. I can barely keep my car running. Crawford smiled, the first human expression I'd seen crack his professional facade. Your grandfather kept detailed records. He said you were the only one who visited him without wanting something. The only one who called just to talk. He has a journal. Every visit, every call, documented for the last 5 years. You're in there 3 times a week minimum. That's when it clicked. Every Tuesday after my shift, Thursday evenings and Saturday mornings, I'd stop by Grandpa's house. We'd drink coffee that could strip paint off a car and watch old episodes of Matlock or Murder, She Wrote. He'd tell stories about Korea, about Grandma Helen who died when I was 12, about opening his first store with $600 borrowed from his uncle. We'd play cribbage on a board he'd made himself, and he'd let me win sometimes, though we both pretended he didn't. I didn't visit because I expected anything. I visited because he was alone, and honestly, so was I. Everyone else in my life wanted something from me. Grandpa just wanted company. There are conditions, Crawford continued, sliding another document toward me. You must live in the house for at least 1 year. You cannot sell any investments for 5 years, unless for emergency medical expenses or education. The house cannot be sold for 10 years. And there's this. He handed me an envelope, my name written in Grandpa's shaky handwriting. The letters getting progressively larger as his eyesight had failed. I opened it in my car, sitting in the parking garage that cost $22 for 2 hours, which seemed criminal. My hands were still shaking. Inside was 3 pages, his handwriting getting worse with each paragraph. Jessica, my sweet girl, they're gonna come for you like vultures to roadkill. Your parents, your siblings, every cousin you've forgotten exists. They ignored me for 15 years except when they needed money. Don't let them make you feel guilty for receiving what I chose to give you. I watched you work double shifts until your feet bled. I watched you bring me groceries with money you didn't have, pretending you'd bought too much. I watched you fix my leaking sink with YouTube videos because you didn't want me to pay a plumber. You're the only one who saw me as a grandfather, not a bank account. Be strong. Be smarter than they are. The lawyer has recordings of every conversation where your parents said they were too busy to visit. Hours of them. Use them if necessary. Don't back down. Don't give in. They made their choices. All my love, Grandpa. P.S. The password to my computer is Helen1955. There's more evidence there. P.P.S. Check the basement wall behind the tool cabinet. There's something else for you. He was right about them coming for me. The assault began exactly 3 hours and 16 minutes after I left the lawyer's office. My phone exploded like someone had posted my number on a bathroom wall. Calls, texts, Facebook messages, even emails to an address I didn't know my family had. I'd made the tactical error of telling my brother Tyler when he called, asking to borrow $60 for gas and groceries. Within minutes, the entire extended family knew. My father called 11 times in 15 minutes. My mother left 3 voicemails that started with fake concern about my well-being and ended with real venom about my character. Madison texted paragraphs about manipulation and theft, using words I didn't know she knew. I didn't respond to any of them. Instead, I called my best friend Angela, the only person I trusted completely. She answered on the second ring. Girl, you sound weird. Did that guy from the gym finally ask you out? Angela, I need to tell you something insane, but you cannot tell anyone, not even Marcus. Now I'm worried. Are you pregnant? No, my grandfather died and left me everything. $3.2 million, Angela. His house, his car, everything. Silence. Then, I'm sorry, what? Can you repeat that because I think I'm having a stroke? $3.2 million. Your family must be absolutely losing their minds. They don't know the amount yet, just that I got everything and they got nothing. Jessica, you need to move into that house immediately, tonight, and get security cameras, actually get a security system, and a new phone number, and possibly a bodyguard. She was right. I gave notice at my apartment that very day, which my landlord was thrilled about since he could charge the next tenant $300 more per month. I packed my entire life, which fit pathetically easily into my Civic, and 2 trips in Angela's boyfriend's pickup truck. 7 boxes of clothes, 3 boxes of kitchen stuff I'd gotten from Goodwill, a mattress that had seen better days, and a bookshelf held together with duct tape and hope. My entire 28 years of existence loaded up in under 2 hours. I moved into Grandpa's house that night. The house smelled exactly like him. Old Spice, strong coffee, WD-40, and the faint scent of the cherry pipe tobacco he'd sworn to Grandma he'd quit, but kept hidden in his workshop. Everything was exactly as he'd left it. His coffee cup still sat by the sink, a ring of dried coffee at the bottom. His reading glasses were on the side table next to his recliner, along with a half-finished crossword puzzle. The clue he'd stopped on, 7 letters, unexpected gift. The answer was windfall. The house felt like a time capsule. Doilies on every surface, just like Grandma had left them. Photos covering every wall. Their wedding, my father and aunt as babies, grandchildren at various ages. I found one of me at 6, missing my front teeth, sitting on Grandpa's lap holding a hammer he'd let me help with. We were both grinning at the camera, covered in sawdust. I didn't remember the photo being taken, but I remembered the feeling. Safe, loved, important. My parents showed up the next morning at 6:45 a.m. They still had a key, but I'd changed the locks the night before on Angela's advice. I watched them through the peephole as they discovered this fact. My father's face went from red to purple. My mother actually kicked the door, then immediately regretted it, hopping on one foot. Jessica Marie Thompson, we know you're in there, your car's outside. Open this door immediately. We need to discuss this situation like adults. I opened the door but left the chain on. There's nothing to discuss. You manipulated him, my mother hissed through the gap. He wasn't in his right mind. He had dementia. He updated his will 7 months ago. His lawyer says he was completely competent. He had a psychiatric evaluation to prove it. We're his children, my father said, his voice shaking with rage. We deserve what's rightfully ours. When did you last visit him, Dad? Silence stretched between us like a taut wire. Mom, when was the last time you saw your father? She looked away, her jaw clenched. We were busy. We have responsibilities. So did he, and I was part of them, every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday for 5 years. You calculated this, my father accused, pointing his finger at me through the gap. You planned this whole thing. You probably poisoned him against us. I brought him soup and watched old TV shows. If that's manipulation, then I'm guilty. My mother stepped forward, her teacher voice on, the one that could make 4th graders cry. We'll contest the will. No court will let you steal from his actual children. Go ahead, I said, and I meant it. His lawyer has recordings. Every time he called and you said you were too busy. Every birthday you forgot. Every holiday you made excuses. He documented everything. 5 years of evidence. That's when my father said the words that severed whatever thread still connected us. You were always a disappointment, just like your failure of a life, and now you're a thief. I closed the door without another word. The harassment escalated quickly. My sister Madison posted on Facebook about elder abuse, tagging me in posts about manipulative children who prey on vulnerable grandparents. She shared articles about undue influence, about signs your elderly parent is being manipulated, about how to contest a will. Each post got dozens of comments from family members I hadn't seen in years, all suddenly concerned about poor Grandpa Robert's state of mind. Tyler took a different approach. He showed up at the house at random times, ringing the doorbell for 10 minutes straight, yelling through the door about family loyalty and how Grandpa would be ashamed of me. One night he brought friends, and they stood on the lawn chanting "thief" until the neighbors called the police. The worst was my Aunt Dorothy, my mother's sister. She worked at the local newspaper and managed to get a reporter interested in the story. Local woman inherits millions while actual children get nothing. The article was full of speculation and quotes from family members about my suspicious behavior and Grandpa's declining mental state. They even used a photo of me from Madison's wedding where I'd been caught mid-blink, making me look sinister. But I had work to do. I spent those first weeks going through Grandpa's house properly. In his bedroom closet, I found 37 notebooks, all identical black composition books, dated on the spine. He'd been documenting everything for 15 years, not just visits, but conversations, phone calls, every interaction with every family member. The patterns were damning. My parents visited exactly 3 times in 5 years. Christmas 2019. Stayed 45 minutes, complained about the drive, asked for money for Tyler's rehab. His 80th birthday, stayed 30 minutes, gave him a card they'd bought at the gas station on the way over, asked for money for Madison's wedding. Christmas 2021. Stayed an hour, brought a fruitcake nobody ate, asked for money for their mortgage. Madison's entries were worse. Every visit included a request. Madison came by. Needed $3,000 for new work wardrobe. Gave it to her. She stayed 20 minutes. Or Madison called. Brad's business failing. Needs $5,000. Will, pay back soon. We both know she won't. Tyler's pages were a catalog of failures and requests. Tyler needs bail money. Tyler's app failed, needs rent. Tyler wrecked his car, needs down payment for new one. Always taking, never giving, never just visiting. Then there were my pages. They made me cry. Jessica came after her night shift, fell asleep during Jeopardy, Covered her with Helen's quilt. She looks exhausted. Wish I could help more. Jessica brought soup, said she made too much. We both know she can't afford groceries. Ate it anyway so she wouldn't feel bad. Jessica fixed the sink. Wouldn't let me pay her. Found $100 in her car later. She'll probably find it and try to return it. The last entry about me dated a week before he died. Jessica asked if I was afraid of dying. I told her no, I was afraid of being forgotten. She held my hand and promised to remember. She's the only one who will. I found more than just notebooks in Grandpa's house. In his desk, there were folders meticulously organized with bank statements, receipts, and printed emails. One folder labeled "Loans Never Repaid" contained a spreadsheet tracking every dollar he'd given family members over the past 20 years. The total was staggering, $127,000. My father had borrowed $43,000 over the years for various investments and emergencies. My mother had taken $28,000 for home repairs, vacation emergencies, and credit card debt. Madison had received $31,000 for her wedding, honeymoon, and Brad's business ventures. Tyler had consumed $25,000 in bail money, rent, and failed startup costs. At the bottom of the folder was a note in Grandpa's handwriting. They see me as a bank, not a father. Jessica has never asked for a penny. When I offered to help with her car repairs, she insisted on paying me back with interest. She's the only one who sees me as a person. In the basement, behind the tool cabinet, just like his letter mentioned, I found a small safe. Inside was $50,000 in cash, gold coins worth approximately $75,000, and another letter. Jessica, this is my emergency fund. The family doesn't know it exists. Use it for the legal fight that's coming. They'll try to break you, but you're stronger than they know. You have your grandmother's spine and my stubbornness. Don't let them win. P.S. Check the attic. Third box from the left, labeled Christmas Decorations 1978. The attic was a treasure trove of memories. The specified box didn't contain Christmas decorations, but rather every card, letter, and drawing I'd ever given him since I was a child. Crayon drawings of us together. A Father's Day card I'd made when I was 7, even though he wasn't my father. I'd crossed out Dad and written Grandpa in purple marker. Birthday cards I'd bought with my allowance. He'd kept everything. There was also a manila envelope with evidence written on it. Inside were printed screenshots of Facebook posts where my family had mocked him, called him senile, and joked about their inheritance. Madison had posted, "Visiting the ATM today, Grandpa. Hope the withdrawal limit is high." Tyler had written, "Old man, better not spend my inheritance on stupid stuff like charity." My mother had commented on someone's post about elder care. "Can't wait until we can just put him in a home and be done with it." The lawsuit came exactly 2 weeks later, delivered by a process server who looked apologetic. My parents had filed to contest the will on grounds of undue influence and mental incapacity. They'd hired Leonard Fitzgerald, a lawyer who specialized in estate disputes and advertised on bus stops with the slogan, "Getting families what they deserve." I used some of Grandpa's emergency fund to hire Patricia Chen, recommended by Crawford. She was 5 feet 2 inches of pure intimidation in designer suits. After reviewing everything, she sat back in her chair and actually laughed. "Your parents don't have a case. They know they don't have a case. They're hoping you'll settle to avoid the embarrassment of a public trial." "No settlement," I said firmly. She smiled like a shark. "Good, let's embarrass them. But first, we need to be prepared for them to get dirty. They'll try to attack your character, your mental health, your motivations. We need everything on them, too." Over the next few weeks, Patricia built our case while my family escalated their campaign. They tried everything. Madison called my former employer, claiming I'd stolen from the warehouse, trying to establish a pattern of theft. Fortunately, my manager, who'd always liked me, told her to pound sand and warned me about the call. Tyler started a GoFundMe called "Help Us Fight Elder Abuse," with a sob story about how their beloved grandfather had been manipulated by a greedy granddaughter. He raised $3,000 before GoFundMe shut it down for fraud when Patricia sent them evidence of Grandpa's mental competency evaluation. My mother took a leave of absence from teaching to wage a full-time harassment campaign. She'd park outside the house for hours, taking photos, trying to document something incriminating. She followed me to the grocery store, loudly telling anyone who would listen that I was a thief who'd stolen her inheritance. Security had to escort her out when she tried to corner me in the cereal aisle. My father tried a different approach. He reached out to extended family, cousins and second cousins I hadn't seen since childhood, trying to build an army. He promised them cuts of the inheritance if they testified against me. A few took the bait, suddenly remembering instances of me being manipulative at family gatherings I hadn't even attended. But Patricia was better at this game. She hired a private investigator who uncovered interesting information. My father had been fired from his last 2 jobs for expense account fraud. My mother had been written up multiple times for verbally abusing students. Madison and Brad were being sued by 3 different creditors and were on the verge of bankruptcy. Tyler had been arrested twice for drug possession, charges Grandpa had paid to make go away. She also found something beautiful. Grandpa had been secretly recording phone calls for the last 3 years, legal in Ohio with single-party consent. Every cruel comment, every rejected invitation, every request for money was preserved in digital clarity. The worst was a call from 2 years ago. Grandpa's voice, shaky and lonely. "It's my birthday, Richard. I was wondering if you and Susan might come for dinner." My father's response, "We're busy, Dad. You know how it is. Hey, while I have you, I need about $5,000 for some repairs on the house." "Richard, you never paid back the last loan. Are you seriously keeping track? What kind of father charges interest to his son?" "I don't charge interest. I'd like to see you. It's been months." "Look, Dad, if you're gonna guilt trip me, I don't have time for this. Do you have the money or not?" "Yes, I'll write you a check." "Great, mail it. I'll try to visit next month." He never did. Patricia played that recording for me, and I cried. Not for my father, but for Grandpa, sitting alone on his birthday, being treated like an ATM by his own son. The court date arrived on a gray Thursday morning. The courtroom was smaller than I expected, with uncomfortable wooden benches and fluorescent lighting that made everyone look sick. Judge Margaret Foster presiding, a woman in her 60s who looked like she'd seen every family squabble imaginable and was tired of all of them. My parents sat with their lawyer, Fitzgerald, who was sweating despite the aggressive air conditioning. Behind them sat my siblings, my Aunt Dorothy, my Uncle Pete, and various cousins who'd crawled out of the woodwork, probably hoping for scraps if my parents won. Our side was just Patricia Chen and me, and Angela, who'd taken a personal day to sit behind me for moral support, occasionally squeezing my shoulder when things got intense. Fitzgerald went first, painting a picture that would have been compelling if it had any relationship to reality. According to him, I was a calculating manipulator who had systematically isolated a vulnerable old man from his loving family. He used words like vulnerable and exploited and undue influence that made me sound like some kind of criminal mastermind, instead of an exhausted warehouse worker who loved her grandfather. He brought up my financial struggles, implying I'd targeted Grandpa for his money. He presented affidavits from cousins I barely knew, claiming they'd witnessed me being, quote, controlling and manipulative at family gatherings. He even suggested that I'd potentially drugged Grandpa to make him more compliant, though he had zero evidence for this outrageous claim. Patricia Chen destroyed him in exactly 43 minutes. First, she played recordings Grandpa had made with Crawford present, his voice clear and sharp. "I'm updating my will because my children have forgotten I exist, except when they need money. Jessica is the only one who treats me like a grandfather instead of an ATM. She's never asked for a penny, even when I've offered." Then she presented the visitor logs, showing the patterns in stark black and white. My parents, 3 visits in 5 years. My siblings, visited only when needing money. Me, 780 visits over 5 years, documented meticulously. She showed bank records of all the unreturned loans, each one carefully documented, none ever repaid. She presented the spreadsheet Grandpa had kept, showing $127,000 given to family members over 20 years versus $0 requested by me. Then came the neighbor testimonies, submitted as sworn affidavits. Mrs. Chen from next door. Jessica came every Tuesday and Thursday evening, Saturday mornings like clockwork. During the 2019 ice storm, she slept on Mr. Mitchell's couch for 3 days to make sure he was okay. She shoveled our driveways too, never asked for payment. Tom Bradley from across the street. I saw that girl bring groceries every week. She'd mow his lawn in the summer, shovel snow in the winter. When Robert had that fall in 2020, she took a week off work unpaid to care for him. Dr. Rachel Morrison, the psychiatrist who'd evaluated Grandpa. Mr. Mitchell was sharp as a tack, no sign of dementia or cognitive decline. He knew exactly what he was doing with his will. He told me, "I'm leaving everything to the only person who loved me for me, not my money." Patricia then played a compilation of phone recordings. My family's voices filled the courtroom. Madison, God, the old man is taking forever to die. I need that inheritance money now. Tyler, can you believe Grandpa spent money on a new roof? That's our inheritance he's wasting. My mother, I can't stand visiting him. The house smells old and he tells the same stories. But we need to stay in the will. My father, once he's gone, we're selling that house immediately. Developer would pay a fortune for that land. The courtroom was silent after the recordings ended. My mother was crying, but whether from shame or anger, I couldn't tell. My father's face was purple with rage. Patricia called me to testify. Tell us about your relationship with your grandfather, Miss Thompson. I looked at my family, then at the judge, and decided to just tell the truth. Grandpa was my best friend. I know that sounds weird, a 20-something being best friends with an 80-something, but it's true. He was the only person in my family who actually listened to me. When I was 16 and my parents were too busy to come to my high school graduation, Grandpa was there in the front row with a camera. When I was 21 and got my heart broken, he let me cry on his couch and made me his grandmother's chicken soup recipe. When I was working doubles and could barely afford food, he'd pretend he'd made too much dinner and needed help eating it. Did you ever discuss money with him? Only when he brought it up. He'd offer to help with my bills sometimes, and I always said no. The one time I let him loan me money, $300 for car brakes, I paid him back in 2 months with interest he didn't want to take. He actually seemed frustrated that I wouldn't let him help more. Why did you visit him so regularly? Because I loved him, because he was alone, because he deserved better than being forgotten until someone needed money. He'd tell me stories about Grandma Helen, about Korea, about building his business. We'd watch old game shows and argue about the answers. We'd sit on the porch and wave at neighbors. It wasn't exciting, but it was peaceful, real. In a family full of people who only called when they wanted something, we just wanted each other's company. Patricia showed the court one final piece of evidence, a video from Grandpa's 85th birthday, 6 months before he died. He'd had his neighbor record it as a video will addendum. His voice was strong and clear. My name is Robert James Mitchell. I'm of sound mind and body, despite what my children might claim after I'm gone. I'm recording this because I know they'll contest my will. They'll say Jessica manipulated me, that I wasn't thinking clearly. So let me be clear. Jessica Thompson is the only member of my family who has shown me genuine love in the last decade. She visits me not for money, but for me. She brings me soup when I'm sick, fixes things around the house, and never asks for anything in return. My children, Richard and Susan, treat me as an obligation at best, an ATM at worst. My other grandchildren only call when they need money. Jessica calls to ask how my doctor's appointment went, if I need anything from the store, if I want to watch Jeopardy together. That's why she gets everything. Not because she earned it through manipulation, but because she earned it through love. If you're watching this in a courtroom, know that I made this decision with full mental capacity and zero regrets. The judge called a recess. Patricia felt confident, but I felt sick. My family's glares burned into my back as I walked out of the courtroom. In the hallway, my mother approached before Angela could intercept. "You destroyed this family," she hissed, "all for money." "No, Mom. You destroyed this family by only seeing Grandpa as a wallet. I just loved him."
Love, she scoffed. You think love entitles you to millions? No, but apparently Grandpa did. 2 hours later, Judge Foster delivered her verdict. The court finds no evidence of undue influence or mental incapacity. The evidence clearly shows that Mr. Mitchell was of sound mind when he updated his will. Furthermore, the evidence demonstrates a clear pattern of neglect and financial exploitation by the plaintiffs, contrasted with consistent care and companionship from the defendant. The will stands as written, case dismissed with prejudice, meaning this cannot be refiled. Additionally, given the frivolous nature of this lawsuit and the evidence of harassment presented by the defense, the court orders the plaintiffs to pay all legal fees and issues a restraining order preventing them from contacting or approaching Miss Thompson. My family erupted. My father shouted about appeals until the bailiff stepped forward. My mother sobbed dramatically. Madison screamed that the system was rigged. Tyler threw a chair and was arrested for contempt of court. I walked out of the courthouse into unexpected sunshine. Angela hugged me tight. "You did it. You won." "Did I? I have money but no family." "Honey, you haven't had a family in years. You had users with shared DNA. There's a difference." That was 8 months ago. I still live in Grandpa's house, though I've slowly made it mine while keeping his memory alive. I repainted the walls in warm colors, but kept his workshop exactly as he left it. I updated the kitchen, but still use his ancient coffee maker that makes the strongest brew known to mankind. I donated his clothes except for one flannel shirt that still smells like him, which hangs in the closet for days when I miss him extra. I kept my job at the nonprofit helping veterans, though I don't need it financially. My coworkers don't know about the inheritance. They just think I got lucky with a house from my grandfather. I like it that way. I like being normal Jessica at work, not the girl who inherited millions and got sued by her parents. The restraining order has held. My family hasn't contacted me directly, though I hear things through the grapevine. My parents are getting divorced. Apparently the stress of losing the lawsuit broke their marriage. Madison and Brad lost their house to foreclosure. Tyler is in jail for dealing drugs. Part of me feels sorry for them, but a bigger part remembers Grandpa's words. People make choices, Jessica. Those choices have consequences. I've done some good with the money. I set up a foundation in Grandpa and Grandma's names that helps elderly veterans. Last month, we paid for home health care for 12 veterans who were living alone. I created education trusts for my future nieces and nephews. If my siblings ever have kids, they'll never know it came from me. I donate anonymously to the food bank that helped me during my worst times. But the best thing I did was start a visiting program at local nursing homes. Volunteers commit to visiting residents who have no family or whose family has abandoned them. We have over 200 volunteers now. Every resident gets at least 3 visits a week. We play games, watch old shows, or just sit and talk. Sometimes I tell them Grandpa's stories, keeping his memory alive in new ways. I still visit Grandpa's grave every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. Same schedule as when he was alive. I bring carnations because they were Grandma's favorites. I tell him about my day, about the veterans we're helping, about the visiting program. Last week, I told him about David, an 89-year-old Navy vet at the nursing home who reminds me of him. No family visits, loves Jeopardy, makes coffee strong enough to wake the dead. "You'd like him, Grandpa," I said to the headstone. "He tells the same kind of stories you did. I'm teaching him cribbage." Sometimes I find myself defending my inheritance to strangers who've heard the story. Must be nice, they say, with that edge that suggests I didn't deserve it. I used to try to explain, but now I just smile and say, "It is nice. My grandfather was a wonderful man who made his own choices." Because that's what it comes down to, choices. Grandpa chose to leave me everything. My family chose to neglect him. I chose to love him. They chose to contest the will. I chose to honor his wishes. Every choice led us here, to a place where I have wealth and they have nothing but regret and restraining orders. Last month, I received an unexpected letter forwarded by my lawyer. It was from a woman named Catherine Mills in Florida. She was Grandpa's younger sister, someone I'd never known existed. She was 91 and had been estranged from Grandpa for decades over some family feud she couldn't even remember the cause of. I heard about Robert's passing and what he did with his will, she wrote in shaky handwriting. I also heard how your family reacted. I want you to know you did nothing wrong. Robert called me a few months before he died. We hadn't spoken in 20 years. He told me about you, how you visited him, cared for him, loved him without expecting anything. He said you reminded him of our mother, who also had a gift for loving difficult people. He was so proud of you. Don't let anyone make you feel guilty for being loved. I cried reading that letter. Then I wrote her back, and we've been corresponding ever since. She tells me stories about young Robert that even he never shared. About the boy who gave his lunch to hungrier kids, who worked 3 jobs to help support his siblings, who sent money home from Korea even when he barely had enough to eat. He was always generous, Catherine wrote, but life made him careful. Your family made him cautious. You made him remember who he really was. Next week is the anniversary of Grandpa's death. I'm planning something special. I've tracked down 12 of his Navy buddies who are still alive. They're coming to the house for dinner. I'm making his pot roast recipe, and we're gonna share stories and watch Jeopardy. It's what he would have wanted, people who actually cared about him gathering to remember him properly. I've also made a decision about the house. I'm going to turn the basement into a free community center for seniors. Game nights, movie screenings, craft workshops, all the things Grandpa would have enjoyed if he'd had people to enjoy them with. The contractor starts next month. I'm calling it Robert's Room. The money hasn't made me happy, exactly, but it's given me the freedom to do good in Grandpa's name. Every day I try to earn what he left me, not through manipulation or calculation, but through kindness and presence. I visit David at the nursing home. I volunteer at the Veterans Center. I help my elderly neighbors with groceries and yard work. I show up, even when it's inconvenient, especially when it's inconvenient. Because that's what love is. It's not DNA or obligation or what you're supposed to do. It's choosing to show up. It's Tuesday and Thursday and Saturday visits. It's soup when someone's sick and silence when words aren't needed. It's seeing someone for who they are, not what they can give you. My family thought Grandpa's money was his greatest gift to me. They were wrong. His greatest gift was teaching me the difference between relatives and family. Relatives are connected by blood. Family is connected by choice, by love, by showing up when it matters. I have no relatives anymore, but I have family. Angela, who stood by me through the lawsuit. David at the nursing home, who calls me his adopted granddaughter. Mrs. Chen next door, who teaches me to make dumplings every Sunday. The veterans at the center, who share their stories and their struggles. The other volunteers who believe in what we're doing. And I have Grandpa, not physically, but in every choice I make, every person I help, every time I choose presence over presence, time over money, love over convenience. The sun is setting now through the living room windows, painting everything gold. I'm sitting in Grandpa's chair, drinking coffee from his Navy mug, thinking about choices and consequences. Tomorrow is Tuesday. I'll go to the cemetery, bring carnations, tell him about the Navy buddies, visit, about Robert's room, about how his money is helping people he never met but would have loved. But tonight I'm going through his photo albums, scanning them to preserve them digitally. I found one from 1952, him in his Navy uniform, young and handsome and ready to take on the world. On the back, in his young man's handwriting, remember, it's not what you have, it's what you do with it. 69 years later, he made sure I had the chance to prove him right. Have you ever had to choose between family expectations and doing what's right? Between keeping the peace and standing your ground? Between blood and love? Tell me in the comments below, and if you've made it this far, hit that subscribe button. Because everyone has a story about inheritance, whether it's money or memories, values or possessions. Sometimes the greatest inheritance isn't what someone leaves you. It's what they teach you about who you really are and who you can choose to become.